In this video, I'm going to show you how to make sourdough in the stand mixer. It's pretty good. I used this for the longest time. Even before I got my spiral mixer, I was using the stand mixer. I had this for like a year and I was still using the stand mixer. And you can use the artisan mixer too, but it's not as strong, but you can use it. The commercial KitchenAid is a bit stronger and you can fit 5 or 6 in here. For this recipe, we're going to do 5. So I'll get this going. We're going to order these for 1 hour, just so we don't put too much strain on the mixer. So we've got 5 sourdough, and we're going to do 76% hydration. So the water is 1,650 mils. Now I'm going to tip all, and I always test, even though I've weighed it out, I still weigh it when I'm putting it in. I'm going to put all the water in, except for a little bit. We're going to use that for the salt. Salt is 50 grams, but we do that after the order leaves. 250 grams of whole wheat. You can use all white flour as well. Just add 250 to the white flour. So we're going to put 250 in. Now this is pretty much maxing out the bowl of the KitchenAid. 2 kilos of white flour. This is my bread flour that I use. This is about 14% protein. If you're using the lower percent protein of flour, just drop the water down to like 73% and work up. So we've got the hook, and we're going to put this in the mixer. I do like the hook on the commercial mixer a lot better than the artisan. The artisan is more of like a C shape. So we're going to mix this on very low speed. Turn it on first. Until all the flour and the water is combined. About 3 or 4 minutes, and then we will order these. So after about 3 minutes, just make sure you scrape down the sides. You don't want any dry parts. And I'll finish this off for another minute or 2. We're not mixing here. We're just getting it combined so that the flour is hydrated. I do have a video on my channel explaining how to test your flour's hydration, how to test the flour hydration. So I definitely recommend watching that. Okay, that's about it. And we'll just cover that up for 1 hour. We'll come back and add the salt and the rest of a little bit of water. So it's been about an hour. Just use the water I have spare. You'll notice but without doing anything, it's getting some good structure. So it's still a bit dry because we haven't added the starter. So we're going to add the starter, and that is 500 grams. Let me just get this out of there. All right. So we're going to put 500 grams of starter. This is almost just correct. So this has got water in it too. So this is going to give us our hydration, which is 76%. I'm just going to put it across like so. Sometimes just go take it out. All right. That's 500. Perfect. So we're going to put it back in the mixer. I'm going to put it on speed 1. Now just watch it. Be careful it doesn't ride up. It will do that in the first few seconds. But now that it's got the water in there from the sourdough starter, it's going to be a lot more softer. Now I'm going to add the salt. The salt is 50 grams. So, and we've got the remaining water here. And we're going to add that bit by bit. So I might put this to speed 2. You don't want to go higher than speed 2. And we've added water, so it's going to spin for a little bit in the middle, but it will start picking up, which it is. Now it's starting to grab the sides. And when it does that, add more water. Otherwise it will get strength and it will climb up into the spiral hook. So we just keep adding water. So if you see it starting to creep up a little bit on the mixer, on the spiral, just knock it back with the scraper. That's what I do. Once it starts taking all the water, it won't climb up the spiral as much. Now I'm going to add the rest of the water. You do have to babysit this a bit more than a spiral mixer, because in the spiral mixer, it will drag the dough off the spiral, off the hook. But in stand mixer, the bowl is fixed, so it's not gonna, it's gonna keep trying to go up. And the more water we put in this, the less it's going to try and climb the hook. You see, now it's getting less and less. Just put the remaining of the water. You do have to babysit this a lot more, but it's okay. See, now it's stopped climbing. Now the hydration's gone up higher. We can focus on mixing. So we don't want to over mix, just like I do in my spiral mixer video. You just want to mix it enough and then finish it with stretch and folds. But we wouldn't mind getting a bit done here, so we don't have to do as many stretch and folds. I'm going to put this on speed 2. And when it starts to pull from the sides, that's when we're going to take it out and finish it off by stretch and folds. Just going to keep mixing until the mixer starts pouring it from the bottom around the edges. Just stop climbing the spiral now. It's got enough water in there. If you do drop the hydration of this, you are going to have troubles with the dough going up the spiral. So it is better to go a bit higher on the hydration when you're doing the stand mixer. But yeah, that is, if you look at the corner there, starting to pick it up. We're going to stop once we see no more dough sticking to the bottom. See, now it's starting to come off the sides. Another half a minute or so, and we are going to stop this, because otherwise it will start going off the spiral again once the gluten's developed. So it's been about 4.5 minutes, 5 minutes. I can start seeing the bottom of the bowl. I don't want to push it too far now. We're going to stop this and pour it out. If you've got a container, you can get these from supermarkets. It's about that size. This is good for bulk fermentation for 5 loaves. I won't use my bigger tubs I usually use. I've ordered it up. And wet my hands. And I'm going to let this rest in this tub, like so. And we'll just give it a quick. So, just wet my hands. Look, it's nice. But we're still going to do stretch and folds. We're going to do 2. 1 every 45 minutes. So we're going to let this sit for 45 minutes. So I'm going to mark on the tub where we're at. And we're about there. And double would be there. And 50 would be here. Would be here. It's quite warm in Australia. It's like 27 degrees. So I'm going to proof to about 30%. If it was cold in your country, I'd proof to about 60 to 70%. All depends on the temperature. I'll explain that in the description. So it's been about 40 minutes since I put this in the tub. If you look, it's already getting fermentation on top. You can tell it's active. I'm going to do a stretch and fold. I'm only going to do 2. This is pretty built. So like so. That's it. That's all you need to do. Just tuck it under so that when it's expanding, the tightness will build more strength. And I will leave that another 40-45 minutes. So we're going to check when we come back the room temperature too. The room temperature is at 29 degrees, so it's quite warm. The dough's not that warm. I tested it before, it's 26.5. So I might prove this to 30 or 40%. let's just see what the final temperature of the dough is when we get to that stage. So it's been 45 minutes. Looking really good. It's getting a lot of activity on top, a lot of bubbles. Just going to do another stretch and fold. Might need to oil that top a bit more, but yeah, that's enough. So it's been about 5 hours and it has grown to 50%. So a lot of activity on top. If you look at it, it's very wobbly. There's 5 loaves here. We can cut it at about 870. So we're gonna pre-shape these and then we'll put them in the banneton. So we're just going to do 860 to 870. You want to be gentle. You don't want to go too rough. Don't want to knock all the air out here. So it's not that sticky, so that's good. And that's it. So this is the 5. I'll let this sit on the bench for about 15 minutes. Like so. Get rid of this scale. Now, I want it to dry out. So I'll throw some flour on top. And if you feel it, it's still bouncing back, so it's not pushed too far. But we are going to put this in 5 bannetons and we'll put it in the fridge overnight. So now we're putting it in the banneton. It's still got bounce. So we're going to put the banneton and we're going to put it in the fridge. So what I do is I just stretch it out. So I'll stick it in the banneton. Get this one as well. Got 2 ways of doing it. I do this way as well, like a triangle, and then I'll roll it by putting my fingers in the middle, like so. I like to use some with a liner and some without. And then the other one is where you go to about halfway, stretch it across, put it across. Make sure you don't get air when you do this part, and then put the ears in and then roll it like this. So you just tap it so that you get no air in there. I sometimes get holes in there myself, even to this day. And then just push it through. So you can use scraper as well to get under there. I'm using white flour here at the moment. And then, like I said, I got my other one, which is like the triangle, which I kind of like this one. I did this one for the longest time with the triangle. And then you just put it in like so. I'm going to leave these in the banneton for another 10 minutes. I like to tighten the edges as well. So you just see how it pulls the sides in nice and tight. If you get rice flour on it, it won't be able to do this on the top. So that's why I only put rice flour on the outside. So it's been about 10 minutes. I will now put it in the fridge for about 16 to 24 hours. You can go up to 30 hours if you want to. And that's it. So it's about 17 hours later. I've got the oven preheating on 250 degrees. So I'm baking 4 on the stone, and I will bake 1 in the Dutch oven, which will be good to see how the same mix, how it will look after it's baked on the stone and in the Dutch oven. Now, if you notice, they've still got a curve on them, so they're not overproofed, and they're still going to have a nice shape after the oven. If they're too flat, that's a good sign that they're overproofed. And I don't have my camera lady today, so I will be doing this on the stand. So I'll take this Dutch oven out the oven. Even though the stones took 2.5 hours to warm up, the Dutch oven, I only had it in there for an hour. So I'll tip this out. And I'll stick this on top of the oven where it's warm, so they don't get moldy. I'm going to use rice flour on these ones, and I always like to put the pattern. Not too deep, just use the edge of the blade. So. Now I'm going to tip this one into the Dutch oven. I'll also put a pattern on top. I'm not sure if this is going to show up on camera at this distance. Okay, now we score. Score. So that's just a score. So now I'll just load it into the oven. Put the lid on this. I'll put this below. I'll just add some steam. This oven's only half full, so you don't get as much jump. It's always best to have this thing full. And I'll bake this at 220 for 25 minutes. So it's been 25 minutes. I'm going to put the temperature back up to 240, and I will also take the lid off the Dutch oven. It's looking good. And we'll bake that for 15 to 20 minutes. So let's have a look how these look. Yeah, 15 minutes was way more than enough. Let's get these out. I do like the dark half when it bakes a bit on the darker side, I must admit. So we will let them cool down, and then we will cut into them. You'll notice there's a lot more oven spring on the one from the Dutch oven. Reason being, is that when you bake in these RM20 ovens, they have space for 4, 4, 4. You can even put 5, 5, 5. Now, if you don't put more than half the bread in the oven, the steam will move around a lot more space. And even though I've added steam, you really want to bake with these ovens at 3/4 full or full. But yeah, we'll let them cool down and we'll cut into them. They've cooled down about 3 hours. You always want them to cool down for at least 3 hours. Let's cut into one and see how it looks. That's nice. And this is the one we baked in the Dutch oven. And let's see how this one looks. And that's the one from the Dutch oven.